Truth is what I'm all about. And believe me, sometimes I get caught in the deception just like everybody else, but it's not as easy to catch me in the deception as it is to catch most of you. Because I've been caught too many times, and I learn from my mistakes. And I spend 99% of my time searching out the truth where none of you have ever looked. Some of you may have looked in some of the areas and some of the things that I've looked in, but I can guarantee you there's nobody in this room who has looked where I've looked as long as I have looked, as diligently as I have done it. Some of you are going to disagree with me, and during this talk today, I'm going to make some of you angry. And I want you to understand this. If what I'm telling you up here is not true, it's not going to bother you. On my radio show, I use the term sheeple a lot. I can always tell when I hit the targets, boy, I get the letters. How dare you call me a sheeple? That person wouldn't have wrote that letter if that person wasn't a sheeple. Because they would have known I wasn't talking about them, right? Only the person that the arrow hits gets angry. So the reason I'm telling you this, if you find what I'm talking about disturbing, I'm hitting you with some truth that is bothering you, that's really bothering you, and you need to look at it really closely, because it wouldn't be bothering you if it wasn't true. If you don't understand that freedom and liberty must be creator endowed, then you are opening the door for somebody to take it away from you because they don't have to answer to a creator. You understand? So even if you don't believe in God, you better start. If you want to stay free. If you want to stay free. If you don't care about freedom, you don't have to believe in God. You see, there must be something that human beings answer to protect us from ourselves. Because the minute we become God, how many of you in here want me to be God? I don't want me to be God either. Because I know who I am. I know the temptations that I'm subject to. I have seen what power can do to people, and I might fall prey to that same corruption that would allow me to use that power wrongly.
In 1997, a man named Bill Cooper stood in front of a small audience in Porterville, California, and said things that sounded completely insane at the time. He spoke about a hidden plan, centuries old, that was entering its final stage, a blueprint for total control, built by people he called the puppet masters. The builders, the ones who don't build buildings, they build people. Most laughed it off at first. Decades later, the speed of change, the division, the loss of trust, it doesn't feel so crazy anymore. Today we're going back to that original recording. No spin, just the patterns Cooper pointed out, and why so many now believe we're watching the final act.
What I'm going to try to do today is sort of give you some of what I've learned, and you can take it for whatever you think it's worth. I hope that you will take it out of here and use it to search for your own truth. Truth is not always cut and dried. It's not always black and white. You can't get into the concept that, hey, this is right and that is wrong and there is no in-between, because that's not true. There are all kinds of in-between all the time. And truth is elusive, folks. I have to tell you this. It's elusive at best, and it's hard to find. And the moment you think you know it all, you have lost yourself again.
Cooper didn't invent conspiracy theories. He followed documents, symbols, and history most people never look at. He said there's always been a plan, sometimes called the Great Work or the Great Plan. It's been unfolding for centuries, hidden in plain sight.
There are a lot of people who are extremely critical of my radio broadcast because they say I spend too much time on symbology and history and the mystery religions and all of these things that they write me letters and say, I don't care about that. It doesn't mean anything. Why don't you get into some nitty-gritty? Well, they don't understand that is the nitty-gritty. He who does not study and understand history is doomed to repeat it. And the same play has been being performed throughout the history of the world by what we call the builders, the controllers, the puppet masters, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to start right at the beginning and tell you exactly who they are and how to identify them, okay? Because there really are puppet masters, there really are controllers, there really are builders, but they're not engaged in building buildings, they're engaged in building people. They're building what they call the perfect race. But because the knowledge, the truth has been withheld from the people. And that's how they manipulate people, is by withholding the truth and controlling them with the lies.
Truth is what I'm all about, he said. But he admitted that the deception is deep. He spent 99% of his time searching where none of us have ever looked. His method was simple: follow the paper trail. If a secret society exists, someone wrote about it. If power is being centralized, documents had to be filed. He warned, the moment you think you know everything, you've lost. The controllers win when you stop questioning.
The moment that you say, I'm going to listen to him, and anybody that says anything different to him is wrong, you've just totally destroyed yourself. Any opposing viewpoint, anything that opposes the status quo, if you won't listen to it, you're already brainwashed. You've closed your mind, and you are at the mercy of whatever manipulation they want to throw your way, because you've already determined that they're telling you the truth no matter what. You don't investigate. You have accepted blindly. That's the most dangerous thing that can happen to anyone.
The centralization of power wasn't an accident to him. It was the inevitable conclusion of a plan set in motion long ago. He urged his audience to look past the headlines and into the actual records of those who hold the keys to the kingdom. It's a game of patience played over generations. To understand it, you have to think in decades, not news cycles. When you step back and see the full timeline, the chaos of the present starts to look like the precision of the past. Cooper was blunt. There are real puppet masters. They aren't just building skyscrapers. They are building societies and minds. They manipulate by withholding truth. They repeat the same play across history: Roman Empire, medieval Europe, modern superpowers. The architecture of control stays the same. He pointed to secret societies and symbols embedded in government and culture.
You have to understand the agenda. You have to understand who's bringing it about and why before you can see the manipulations and how people are being used and manipulated to bring it about. How many of you believe that this is a Christian government? How many of you believe that it was founded as a Christian government? I hate to tell you this, but you're wrong. This country was built by Christians because that's the majority of the people who originally came here. And a lot of the things that they believed in is reflected in our laws and in our traditions and in our government. But the government was never meant to be Christian. Many of them were members of the secret societies. How many of you believe Thomas Jefferson was a Christian? I'm not afraid. I believed it until I read the truth about Thomas Jefferson and studied his life. Thomas Jefferson hated Christianity. Thomas Jefferson tore up the Bible. Thomas Jefferson wrote his own Bible because he said the God of the universe could not possibly be that terrible God represented in the King James Version of the Bible. Don't be afraid to raise your hand in here, folks. Nothing that I'm going to say is intended as a personal slant or insult or attack upon anybody in here. But I need your cooperation in order for us all to learn.
One shocking claim: many founders were involved in Enlightenment and Masonic traditions. Jefferson literally cut up the Bible, removing miracles. Franklin was a master of multiple Masonic lodges. Cooper wasn't attacking faith. He was explaining how power actually works. The builders use belief systems, any belief system, to divide and guide people toward their agenda. The builders use belief systems, any belief system, to divide and guide people toward their agenda. They operate in the shadows, using the visible world as a stage to distract from the real movements behind the scenes.
How many of you knew that Benjamin Franklin was the master of the Masonic Lodge in Philadelphia? How many of you knew that he was the master of the Lodge of Nine Muses in France? Have you ever studied the Lodge of Nine Muses? Boy, you better. See, these are things you don't know because you were taught something different, and it makes you uncomfortable to hear what I'm telling you, only for the reason that you've been taught something else and you've been reared with it and you've accepted it. It's hard to let go of something that you have learned and accepted that is not true. You don't want to let go of it because then you have to give up your comfort zone. How many of you know that George Washington was a Freemason? How many of you know if you're a Freemason, you cannot possibly in your wildest dreams be a Christian? It's absolutely impossible. And I can show it to you in their own words. And you don't even know the slightest, teeniest bit about his real involvement in the secret societies. He founded a military order, a secret order of his military officers, the generals and senior officers of the revolution, also known as the Knights of the Golden Circle. You see, all of this has happened over and over and over and over and over again throughout the history of the human race. These people know how to lead us wherever they want us to go because they study history and we don't. Our founding fathers were deists and they were members of the secret societies, and some of them were masquerading as Christians and some of them were just flat weren't Christians, weren't masquerading at all. Why did they create this country? They came here to create a new world, not a country. How many of you really read what they wrote? They didn't come here to create a country. They came here to create a new world. What else did they call it? The grand experiment, the great experiment. Remember reading those words? And just read right over them, didn't really understand what it meant. They came from a world that was oppressive, ruled by kings and queens and popes and prelates and bishops and lords and barons. So they did something that was unheard of, never been done in the history of the world. They set the cattle free. They said, you're not really a serf. You're not really a slave. You're not really as dumb as they say you are. You're not really a bunch of cattle. Now you're free men. You got brains. We're even going to write this contract to guarantee your freedom. But we know you won't keep it because you're human. And they wrote about that, didn't they? Didn't they tell us all the ways that we would give it up? Didn't they write about it? Didn't they warn us over and over and over and over again? In all of their writings, they knew we would give it up because we're human. And they were geniuses who understood human nature probably better than any single group of men that's ever lived throughout the history of the world. Did Ben Franklin say when he came out of the Constitutional Convention after everything was signed, sealed, and delivered? Somebody said, hey, Ben, what have ye wrought? See, a republic, if you can keep it. He knew. They all knew. What was it really about? Why did they give it to us if they knew we would give it up? And they did know. Make no mistake about that. They knew. What do you think the fight over federalism was all about? They wanted to make sure that at some future point, the great central government would seize control. By the way, if you want confirmation of what I said about the Founding Fathers, if you really believe that they were Christian, go look at the city that they laid out from the air. Look at the symbolism that they built into it. All deist, all Masonic, all Jacobin. It's another word for Jacobin, illuminist. Go into the Capitol building, stand right in the center of the rotunda and look straight up at the dome where nobody ever looks. And what do you see? You see the apotheosis of George Washington. Riding across the heavens in the chariot of Apollo. Who is Apollo? George Washington. He's become God now. And around the perimeter of the Capitol dome, you see all the old gods of the Roman pantheon. They're all there. Zeus, Mercury, Prometheus, all of them. What's that doing on the inside of our Capitol dome if this country is a Christian nation?
The media is their primary tool for shaping reality. They don't just tell you what to think, they tell you what to think about. Finance and faith are the two pillars of their control. By manipulating both, they ensure a population that is both dependent and divided. Look at the layout of our cities, the symbols on our money. To Cooper, it was all a signature left by the architects. The names of the kings change, but the family of the controllers remains remarkably consistent throughout history. It's a system designed to be invisible to those who are inside it.
Now, I'm going to just give you a little demonstration of the degree of control that is already in effect in this country concerning communications. Now, if you're smart, you know that if you turn the dial on your radio and on your TV set and on every news story, it has the same slant in the same words and it's the same stories, you know that the news and the media are controlled. If you don't, you're not playing with a full deck of cards. Okay? It is absolutely absurd to believe that all these different networks, news stations, newspapers, and radio stations are all owned by different people, yet they all carry the exact same stories every day, worded in the exact same way, with the same agenda and the same slant. You see, if they were all separate and independent, that could never happen in a million years, because no two people ever attach the same importance to the same event or the same slant on the same story unless they're handed it.
The first step to freedom is seeing the cage. Cooper described the endgame, a world government with a visible throne or figurehead leader who takes the public blame, while a hidden council of wise men pulls the strings. If the figurehead becomes a problem, they just remove him. The plan is centralization of power and the erosion of sovereignty, a perfect system that controls through psychology and technology. He called people sheeple, a warning. Truth that disturbs you is the truth you need to examine most closely. Today, loss of privacy, economic pressures, and technology that tracks and predicts behavior. Cooper saw the direction back in 1997. He predicted a system where your ability to participate in society is tied to your obedience to the plan. Crisis is their favorite tool. They create the problem, wait for the reaction, and then offer the pre-planned solution. The goal is a one-world system where every transaction, every thought, and every movement is monitored and logged. We are living through the final act. The acceleration you feel is the plan reaching its terminal velocity. Technology has finally caught up to the vision. The digital Iron Curtain is being drawn in real time. It's not just about land or money anymore. It's about the very essence of what it means to be human.
Now, there's some people you can listen to who are not gurus. God's not whispering in their ear. They don't have a crystal ball. But they are what I call the inner circle. They know what's coming. They're part of it. And when they write or they talk, you better listen to them. One of them is Henry Kissinger. Listen to Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger doesn't just get up and jaw. If he says something that's important, listen to him. Whether you like him or not doesn't make any difference. But I've discovered that most people who ever meet him really like him a lot. He's very charismatic, very polite, very gracious, very nice guy. He's also one of the biggest traders that's ever lived. Another one that you have to read is Foreign Relations. Foreign Relations is published by the Council on Foreign Relations, and you can subscribe to their publication. Whatever they write in there usually happens about 2 years later. Whatever it is. It's almost like magic. If they're not involved in any of this, how come what they write about always happens? Almost everybody in government belongs to the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission, or both. They speak in a code that they understand perfectly. The average person hasn't got the slightest idea what they're talking about. And if you don't study them and their symbology and what they believe in and what their agenda is, you'll never know. You could read this and never know what this guy's saying. Oh, that sounds nice. That's what most people say. Oh, that sounds nice. Doesn't it sound nice in a way? But if you really understand, it's not nice at all. What they're saying is, screw you, we're going to enslave you. We're going to engineer how you live, how you think, how you work, everything. Here's also what he says on page 9. Now, if you don't understand the ordo ab chao technique, order out of chaos. By the way, that's the motto of the 32nd degree of Freemasonry. Ordo ab chao. We'll just devolve everything into a state of chaos, and out of that, we will bring order to the world the way we want it. And everybody will get down on their knees and thank us for restoring order and security to their lives. And they will be willing to give up anything to us for that favor. Quote, in the United States today, as in many other countries, the collection of second and third waves creates social tensions, dangerous conflicts, and strange new political wave fronts that cut across the usual divisions of class, race, sex, or party. All the old polarizations and coalitions break up, end quote. Toffler even admits that there's a plan. On page 10 of his book, quote, life may indeed be absurd in some large cosmic sense, but this hardly proves that there is no pattern in today's events. In fact, there is a distinct hidden order that becomes detectable as soon as we learn to distinguish third wave changes from those associated with the diminishing second wave, end quote. There's always been a plan. They call it the Great Work, the Great Plan, the Lost Word. There's all kinds of words for it. It exists. It is being brought about.
The question isn't whether the plan exists. The question is whether you have the courage to see it for what it is. The most dangerous person is the one who stops questioning. The one who says, I only listen to this side. Everything else is wrong. That's not strength. That's surrender. They control you with certainty, make you so sure your team is right that you close the door on opposition. Outrage is currency now. Algorithms reward it. Cooper saw this. Keep people fighting each other so they never look up at the real architects. Blind loyalty is the fuel that runs the machine. They give you a flag to wave and an enemy to hate, and you provide the power. When you are certain of your righteousness, you are at your most vulnerable to their manipulation. They own both sides of the debate. The greatest trick they ever played was making you believe that the person sitting next to you is the problem. Every headline is a carefully calibrated piece of the puzzle, designed to keep you looking everywhere but at the strings. Fear is the primary frequency they operate on. If they can keep you afraid, they can keep you obedient. Cooper's message wasn't despair, it was empowerment. Once you see the pattern, the strings lose their power. You stop being a victim of the script. He encouraged people to dig, study history, follow documents, and stay humble. Truth is hard work, it's elusive, but it's the only way out. He wasn't asking you to believe him blindly. He was begging you to investigate for yourself.
We're in this situation because all of us, me included, we're dummies for most of our lives. And unless we change that, we are never going to turn anything around. And that is the cold, hard truth, whether we like it or not. And we all, at some point in our life, have to go in the bathroom, confront our own self in the mirror and say, Bill Cooper, you've been a fool for most of your life. What is the matter with you? You've got to stop it right now. You got to stop being stupid.
The truth doesn't require your belief. It requires your attention. The archives of the past are the maps of the future. Read what they wrote, and you will see what they plan. One mind at a time is how the darkness is pushed back. Your curiosity is the greatest weapon against their control. When you find the frequency of truth, the static of the world becomes clear. You are no longer part of the machine. Bill Cooper was killed in 2001. Many believe because he got too close. His core warning still echoes. The plan is old, and the final stage is accelerating. Look around. Does the speed of collapse and control feel random? Or does it feel coordinated? The evidence is all around you. Drop in the comments. What part of Cooper's warning hits hardest for you? Which pattern do you see right now? I read every comment. If this video disturbed you, good. Share it with someone who still believes everything is random. One awakened mind at a time is how we break the script. The final stage is here. Will you keep sleeping through it, or start seeing the strings? Stay curious, stay dangerous. See you in the search for truth. Thank you for watching Frequency XO Productions, and remember, never give up on yourself.